I've got a new No Scraps sketch set, and today it's actually going to make some nail file holder boxes that are great for gifting or craft shows, and then you get to use up the scraps on a card, so you get 6 projects and 1 card and no scraps left over. Hey, it's Beth. Welcome. I'm back with another No Scraps sketch set, and today it's for 12 by 12 paper. And this is also part of the 12 months of Christmas challenge that I'm doing for myself, where each month I just work on some Christmas projects, primarily for our craft shows that come up in the fall, so I can get ahead on some inventory. Kathy, who is Stampin' Cat over on Instagram, also does this challenge along with me, so please be sure to check her out. She'll be linked in the description box below. But for this month, I'm actually using one of the last sheets of the Simple Stories Make It Merry collection that I used last month. And I thought it would be great to use for some nail file holders because the prints were a little bit smaller. And so I decided that I wanted to come up with a No Scraps sketch set for nail file holders because you always have strips left over. The dimensions are 3.5 by 6 that you cut for the holder box, and then you always have strips. So I thought I'll come up with a plan, and then that way I have something I know what to do with those scraps each time I make these, because these are a big seller for me around Christmas time. They're great stocking stuffers. I think people like to give them to like coworkers and things like that. So anyway, that is what our sketch is going to be. We have a cutting guide on page. This is a 2-pager. We have a cutting guide on page 1 for the 12 by 12 sheet, and you just need 1 sheet. It makes 6 holder boxes, and then you get 1 card. So if you flip over to page 2, you have what the nail file holder box looks like once you get it cut. It's got some scoring instructions, and then you have your card sketch down here, which is, pretty simple. And then there's just some additional notes that we'll talk about as we work on our projects. So I have my 12 by 12 and I have my other supplies ready to go that we'll talk about as I go through, but let's get crafting.
We're going to get started by using the cutting guide to cut down our sheet of 12 by 12. I need to start by taking off the branding strip there at the bottom. So I'm just going to slice that off, and then I'm going to start with the 3.5 by 6 inch strips that we need for the nail file holders. So I'm going to cut 3 strips at 3.5 by 12. And then I'm going to come back in and we'll cut those in half down to 6-inch pieces. These work really well as assembly line projects. If you are using multiple sheets of paper, you can, I normally go through and cut down all my pieces, and then I score all of my pieces, and then, start the assembly process. Since I have that strip left, I'm going to go ahead and cut it down into the 3 pieces that I will be using on my card. I'm doing 1 piece it's a 1.5 inch strip, so I'm cutting 1 piece down to, 2 pieces down to 3 3/4 inches, and then the one that's left over will be 4.5 inches. To score your holder box, you'll need something to score with, whether or not it's your trimmer and a bone folder or stylus. I've got a stylus here. It's just a Dollar Tree stylus. Right now I'm just trying to see if it matters what side I'm going to score on, but I don't think it really does. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm probably going to use the floral side for most of them. So I'm going to use my trimmer on this first one and a stylus. I'm just going to shift the little wire out of the way on my trimmer and then use that track there. And I'm going to make my first score at 1 inch, 1 inch, and then I'm scooting over to 1 1/4, and then to 2 1/4, and then the last score line is at 2.5 inches. And because I'm not getting a great fold on that first one, I do kind of go over it a couple times. I don't know if you can see the score lines on there. I don't know why I was trying to show you that, but or if you have a scoreboard of some kind, then you can use that. This definitely does make it quicker. So I'm going to do it again at 1, 1 1/4, 2 1/4, and 2 1/2. And I'm just going to continue on with the rest of these. I've left all of this assembly footage in. Normally, like, I make some with you on camera and then I finish the rest off camera, but I left everything in just to show you like how quick you can work through these, especially when you're working an assembly line. And I know there are some of you that don't like to make things like all the same, and you can still use like multiple sheets of paper, and then your embellishments, how you embellish them can make them all different, but you can still like do this assembly part the same way and kind of work through them. Like mass produce is another way. And I want to make a note about the paper, and I do note that on my page 2, there's like some random notes on page 2 within each part, but you don't want to use a real thin paper for this. Like some of the Hobby Lobby pads can be really thin, like the ones, especially the ones with a whole bunch of paper in it. You don't want your paper to be too thin. You want it to be something that will hold up well in the box shape. Now that I have all of my score lines in, I'm just using my bone folder to help me get all of those creases. And a note here, if you're using super thick paper, you might get a little bit of cracking. Sometimes it depends on how you use the bone folder to burnish down your folds. And then sometimes it doesn't matter if the paper, it's sometimes just the paper. So it's like finding that happy medium, like the Simple Stories, Echo Park, Cartabella, those are probably what I use the most for these, and the paper weight is like perfect. I don't get a lot of cracking, and they're sturdy enough to hold up. And a note too, if you're using anything with glitter or embossing on it, sometimes that's going to crack too, no matter what. And I'm just following the lines, working through. And my last one here. And I think I've made these with you guys before on videos, but I think I tend to use 6x6 paper, so I don't know if I've made a 12x12 paper version of them. I mean, they still cut the same, but you just end up getting more from each sheet. And now that the score lines are in, I'm going to use, this is a 3/4 inch punch from EK Success, and I'm going to not go down all the way, I'm just going to create a little notch right there in the center of that middle section. This punch is perfect for me because it fits like right in between the two score lines, so it helps me get it centered. So you can use whatever size you have. I think before I've used something a little bit bigger. This one I just like because it's easier to center. So that sheet I turned around because I don't really know if there's a directional element to my paper. It just kind of looks like there should be. So that's something to pay attention to when you're creating your notches. Is if you have directional paper, make sure you're creating the notch at the top. I'll link this punch down in the description box below for you if I can find it. Like I said, it fits perfectly in between the score lines, so it makes it really easy to center, but definitely use whatever circle punch you have. Now that, and I just want to note, it is so much easier to do that before you assemble your box. And so I do note that in my instructions. Now we can get our boxes put together. You can use wet glue or tape of some kind, but I just recommend you use something heavy duty. No regular tape runner if you want your box to stay together. So I like to use my Barely Arts glue. If you have score tape, that would work too. You just want something that's gonna like give it a really good hold. And so I kind of audition my like folding the sides together to see if it matters which side fold goes on top, and then add my glue to one piece or the other. And you can fold, I like to fold the box flat when I'm gluing. It just makes it easier to burnish it and get a really good hold with your glue to make sure that the glue gets pushed down in all the different spots. And if you have one, like sometimes the score lines are just a little bit off from where they folded, and so sometimes with the wet glue it's nice because I can kind of shift it just a little bit to try and make sure that the edges line up. If your edges don't line up for some reason, you get an overhang on one side, you can always come back in and cut that off with some scissors. Sometimes there will be like the one end won't go all the way to the other end, like the top, the layer that goes on top may not go all the way to the other end, and that's okay. It's the back of the box. But if you do have an overhang, like I like to trim that off just so it looks nice and clean. And I have nail files that I get off Amazon that I will link below. I'll show them to you here later on, but I'll be sure to link those below. Most nail files fit in these boxes. If you have thinner ones, you could always stick 2 in there. I've done that before. But pretty much, like even the bigger, like I've seen some that are heavy duty that have, I don't even know how to describe it, but like the bigger ones, even most of those I think fit. So pretty much any nail file would fit in here. And these are great for, like I said, for me, I sell them at craft shows. They're a great seller. Most people buy them as stocking stuffers, as gifts for friends, coworkers, or they'll put them in like a little gift pack kind of thing. So that's something you can do too. You can always gift this with some lotion or nail polish or something that goes along with that or do a little self-care thing. So if you are looking for some gift ideas for Christmas, these are, as you can see, super quick and easy and great to make. I'll get my last one folded up here, and then we can work on the bottoms of our boxes. And I am apparently having some allergy issues this morning, so I'm sorry if my voice is cracky and I sound stuffy. It's just one of those mornings here in the Midwest. The next step is pinching the bottom of the box. So I'm going to try and show you here. I just use my nails to go into each side of the bottom there to push it in a little bit and then pinch it down. And then I'll add a good amount of glue, and I'll go in probably 1/4 of an inch with the glue just to make sure it's going to hold really well. And then some kind of clamp. These are Dollar Tree clothespins, work perfect. I just put 2 on and then I'll let them sit. And this is why it's kind of good assembly line project, because you can let the glue dry as you're finishing, and then I go back to the ones I started with for the next step. So again, I just used my nails, pinched it to push in the sides, pinched it down. If you have a crimping tool, that would work great for these at the bottom as well. You could pinch them down and then use your crimper. I don't have a crimping tool. You could always score a crimp in there too with your scoreboard if you wanted. But just push in and pinch and glue. I sell these. These are kind of a, I don't know if it's what you call a loss leader for stores, where I don't sell these for very much at my show, and people will buy a ton of them. And for me, I started doing that because it was a great way to use up paper and embellishments that I had. And now people come back for them, like they come to look for them every year. And then once they're in our booth for that, like they also tend to buy some other stuff. So I don't put a lot of time and effort into these. So you'll see, like, I don't embellish them a ton. I don't want to put a whole lot of time and money into them because I'm not going to get that much out of them. If you are gifting these to friends, you can embellish or make these as elaborate as you want. Again, just like with my card sketches, I'm giving you the base and you can build from there. But if you are selling them at craft shows, pay attention to the amount of time and money you're putting into them for what you can get out of them. I tend to sell them. I don't remember the exact price I use. If you want to know that, let me know in the comments. But I did raise the price of them this year. I remember that because the cost of the nail files, I think, has gone up a little bit. But I do tiered pricing. So like if you want to buy one, it would be this price. If you buy two, you're going to save a little bit. And if you buy 6 or whatever, you're going to save a little bit more. For the card, we're going to switch to the card while our bottom end of the box is dry. I found a piece of green cardstock already cut into an A2 size mat in my card stash. It's not great. It doesn't totally match the greens, but it works if I do the reds as the bottom layer. So I'm just going to take the 2 smaller strips and put them down kind of in the center, and they're going to kind of stick out either side of that longer strip. And I'm going to do adhesive on both of them here because that way I can put them down at the same time and try and get them lined up better together. Going to use my grid mat, and I'm trying to center them from top and bottom and have like an equal amount on either side. So that seems to look good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and press that down. And then I'm going to do, this is when it's really nice if you have double-sided paper to be able to mix and match the patterns so that, the bottom or the 2 side strips are different patterns than the top strip. If you're doing single-sided but you're using more than one sheet, you can mix and match your patterns that way too. And I'm going to go ahead and add my mat, and I think my mat was like 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, I think. And I will add that to my A2 card base, which is 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. And I want you to know, I did when I was prepping, oh, hang on, we'll talk about I had this ephemera pack from Echo Park, and the colors seem to work pretty well, so I'm going to use that as my embellishment and my sentiment. And you can use any kind of sentiment, any shape, any size. I had just put a strip on there for this one. But what I was saying before is when I was practicing with the sketch, just making sure everything worked, I also was able to make a 3 1/2 by 5 inch note card with the same strips. So the strips are kind of versatile. You can adjust the size of card to whatever you need. And this is a great sketch to use for any scrap strips that you have. So now I don't have any paper left over from my cutting guide because we used every last bit of it, but I did happen to have that branding strip. So I'm going to use part of the branding strip to go on the inside of the card because if you follow me, you know I always like to add something to the inside of the card. So I just trimmed that branding strip down to about 4 inches long, and then we'll add that to the inside bottom of my card. And now the card is done. So now we're going to jump back to our nail file holders. Our glue should be dry. It sets up pretty well, especially with the clamps. And we get to do the fun part of embellishing. So get all my clothespins off. And I have some 1 1/4 inch white circles that I punched. And I'm just using, I have some Recollection and some Paper Studio. So the Santa hats are from Michaels and the candy canes are from Hobby Lobby. And I always try to look for small dimensional embellishments that I can use on these. I'm always on the hunt, and I didn't find a ton last year. So if you see any small but dimensional embellishments out anywhere, give me a shout and let me know where you find them so that I can go look for them, because they're great for here. So when you are decorating, keep in mind the packaging that you're going to use. You want to make sure, I always like to have a little bit of overhang just to add some interest to the holder, but if you go too big, it may not fit in your packaging, and we'll kind of talk about that later towards the end as to what I use. But so I'm trying to figure out which one I like better. I think I like the candy canes the best on the floral, but then I don't have enough candy canes. I think I only had like 3 of those left, 3 or 4 of those left. So, and I've done multiple layers of circles. I've done scallop circles. You don't even need a circle. If I have like a chipboard type embellishment, I don't even necessarily use a backer, but because I'm using like tiny embellishments, I want there to be something behind them just to add a little bit more interest. So the candy canes stuck really well. These Santa hats have a foam piece on the back, and I thought about taking it off, but then I was like, no, the extra dimension is fine. But I wanted to add a little bit of glue because they weren't super sticky for some reason. So we'll do these last 3 with the Santa hats. The tiny puffy stickers from, say, Echo Park, or I've used some from Hobby Lobby, work great for these too. And I've done tag shapes on there. I've done like little banner strips. It doesn't really matter. This year I just kind of kept it simple. Or for this, I just kept it simple and went with some circles. So to put this on, I'm actually going to put if I have my nail files on hand, I will put them in, and then that helps me press down on my embellishment there. If I don't, I will flip it over and use a bone folder to kind of press it down from the backside. I just don't want to squish my box at this point. So here I'm showing you, I buy the big bag of the nail file holders from Amazon. They have, I think I've seen, the ones I used to get them like in 10 packs, but then I ended up making so many, I think I started, it's either 50 or 100. Again, it'll be linked below. And it is an affiliate link. It doesn't cost you anything extra to use any of the links I use in my description box. It's just a way to support my channel, because for anything you purchase through one of those links, I get a little bit of commission back. It's not much, but it's nice to add back into my channel. So I thought the Santa hat looked a lot better on that stripe box than on the florals, but I didn't have anything else to use. I need to be on the hunt for some of those before Christmas so that I can make some more of these. My daughters also like to give these out to their friends at Christmas, like their classes. So that's another idea.
All right, here are our completed projects from today's sketch number 7. And I didn't have any of the empty bags left that I normally use for these, but they're like I always call them the Wilton pretzel bags. I don't know if they're actually Wilton or not, but they're like the pretzel rod, the dipped pretzel rod size bags. They are just shy of 2.5 by 8, so probably about 9, or 9.5, because these are maybe even by 10. I will find them and link them down below, but because I fold them over and they're not adhesive, so I just create some little labels that I have my name on it that I can use it to close, and then that way my name is on the project as well. So that's how I package them, and so that's why I say whatever bags you're going to use, just make sure that your embellishment doesn't, like if you're going to bag them, that it will still fit in the bag, is what I'm trying to say. So again, for every 1 sheet of 12 by 12 you use, you will get 6 Nailfile folder boxes and then 1 card with the scraps. These are great to mass make if you're gifting or selling them at craft shows. And they were super easy. The video was pretty much in real time, so you can see how quickly that they do go. But again, the sketch set will be listed in the description box below for you, the link to my website that you can just download it. Again, also check out Kathy over on Instagram to see what she's playing with and what she made for her Christmas challenge projects this month. As always, I thank you so very much for your time and support, and I hope you all have a very crafty day.